como pabellones.
Muy buenas tardes, bienvenidos al auditorio Alicia Yanés Cosío. En estos momentos daremos inicio al conversatorio El legado Shusterman, Neal y Jarrod. Participante, Neal Shusterman, Jarrod Shusterman y Erika Guevara. Este conversatorio tendrá una duración de 1 hora. Le invitamos a ponerse cómodo, recordándole que los micrófonos y videos estarán inhabilitados para los espectadores durante toda la actividad. En la parte inferior de su pantalla está el icono de mensajes para que pueda realizar todas sus preguntas. Que lo disfruten.
Buenas tardes a todos. Les damos una cordial bienvenida al conversatorio El legado Shusterman. Antes de empezar, me gustaría presentarme. Mi nombre es Dani, soy miembro del Club de la Guadaña y seré la encargada de traducir al español este evento que se realizará en inglés. Al final tendremos 10 minutos para que se puedan realizar las preguntas. Agradecemos a Livraria y Editorial Nocturna por su apoyo constante y por ayudarnos a concretar este sueño que compartimos todos sus lectores. Estamos muy agradecidos y emocionados de que Neal y Jarrod hayan aceptado esta invitación a la Feria Internacional del Libro Quito 2020. Primero daremos la bienvenida a nuestros invitados, Neal y Jarrod Shusterman. Neal y Jarrod son dos escritores estadounidenses de ficción para adultos jóvenes. Neal es ganador de varios premios, entre los que destacan el Premio Nacional de Literatura Juvenil en 2015 y Libro de Honor del Premio Michael Prince en 2017. Es autor de varias series de ficción juvenil, entre ellas la saga Desconexión, la trilogía del Arco de la Guadaña y Sed. Esta última novela escrita junto con su hijo Jarrod. Jarrod Shusterman ha publicado relatos en libros como la antología Superventas Unbound y es guionista de cine y televisión. Fue productor de una película y actualmente está estudiando español. La entrevistadora será Erika Guevara, booktuber ecuatoriana desde el 2018. Ha recomendado en su canal los libros de Neal y Jarrod. Con esto damos oficialmente inicio al conversatorio El legado Shusterman. Hi Neal, hi Jarrod, welcome to Ecuador. My name is Dani and I'm member of the book club, El Club de la Guadaña or the Sci Club. And before we start, I would like to thank you on behalf of everyone for accepting the invitation to this interview. It is such an honor for me to be here today talking to the author of my favorite trilogy. And I'm just as happy to talk to Jarrod because Dry has blown me away. I just finished the book and I have to say it has been an incredible discovery. It really is a dream come true. We really love your books and we are your biggest fans. So thank you, Livraria and Editorial Nocturna for this opportunity. And thank you, Neal and Jarrod, for accepting the invitation to the International Book Fair Quito 2020.
Thank you. Pues muchas gracias por tener nosotros aquí. Hablo un poquito de español, pero ahora voy a hablar en inglés. Thank you so much for having us. It's really, really cool to be in this opportunity. And we're just so happy to talk more about us, the process, and what this book means to us.
Estamos hablando ahorita con Jarrod, que nos está dando su agradecimiento por aquí. Dice que por hoy va a hablar en inglés, aunque él está estudiando español.
So, Dani, ¿ya empiezo?
Empezamos.
¿Te parece bien?
Sí.
Listo. So, Neal, Jarrod, welcome to this interview. For me, it's such an honor too, because I really love your books, as the Arc of a Side trilogy and Dry are such good books, and I am really, really thankful with you to be here with me today. I am so glad with you.
Bienvenidos a la entrevista. Es un honor para mí porque leí los libros y me gustaron mucho. Estoy muy agradecida de estar aquí.
So, shall we start? It's okay for you, Neal, Jarrod?
Yes, let's start. Let's begin.
Okay. So, as you know, today we want to talk about the impact that some of the books with the last name Shusterman on the cover have had on the Ecuadorian reader community. For example, Dry and the Arc of a Side trilogy. So we decided to call this this talk, like the Shusterman legacy. I think that it sounds so epic, and I really like that name. And we want to know as much as we can about you. It's okay?
Como saben, hoy queremos hablar del impacto que ha tenido en la comunidad lectora de Ecuador algunos de los libros que llevan el apellido Shusterman en la portada. Por ejemplo, Sed y la trilogía del Arco de la Guadaña. Por eso decidimos llamar esta plática El legado Shusterman. Queremos saber todo lo posible acerca de ustedes.
So first, I would love to talk about Dry because it's a really, really good novel. A book where a group of teenagers must face the total lack of water on their own. I think that it's really, really a good topic for a book, and I would like to know, to begin with Jarrod. I know that it's obviously that Neil has experience like a writer, but I want to know. What was your experience like publishing a book with your father? Yeah, but in your own, how was it for you?
Para empezar, Jarrod, obviamente Neal tiene experiencia como escritor, pero queremos saber cómo fue tu experiencia publicando un libro por primera vez.
Ha sido maravilloso. I absolutely love the experience. You know, in the very beginning, it was really interesting to write with my father because, you know, I started learning how to write through him, and he taught me a lot of what I learned in the beginning. So working together, we had a synergy, and we had a very, and always do have a connection that we can always go to for this writing, that helped create something that we really both feel passionate about. And it's been a really, really great experience.
Amé la experiencia en el principio, fue interesante escribir con mi padre, aprendí a escribir, tuvimos una sinergia y conexión desde un inicio que siempre ayudaron a escribir, a crear ese libro.
Yeah, I really want to know how was the experience to match together the styles of writing and just to find the way to work the ideas together, you know?
So,
That's for Jarrod
Deseo
or for
saber
both of us?
cómo fue el proceso de escribir esta historia juntos, cómo lograron que las ideas, estilos y tiempos de los dos se ajusten para poder escribir.
So the process together was really interesting. We would go and write different parts together, and then we would bring them together and find a way to match our voices. And because I've learned to write through my dad, and I learned the young adult world through him, it was very easy to be able to combine our voices and make the style very similar. There are some moments and some people who can tell things that are written by me, some people who can tell that are really clearly written by my dad. But the goal for the general public was to be able to have them blend together. And we would work often on Google Documents. We would work back and forth, sometimes at the same time and sometimes apart. And we would generally talk about all of our ideas in the beginning, where we wanted to go, how we wanted to make an outline, how we wanted to move forward. And then we would write some sections together.
El proceso juntos fue interesante. Escribimos diferentes partes juntos y a veces también escribíamos juntos. Logramos juntar nuestras voces y aprendí a escribir gracias a mi papá. Juntos aprendimos. El objetivo fue que podamos escribir juntos. Trabajamos en documentos Google, ya sea juntos o por separados, y siempre hablando de nuestras ideas, de cómo queríamos seguir con el proceso.
So, Neil, I really enjoy Dry because I feel it's very real in the choices and the attitudes of the protagonists, of the characters of the book. They remain young people without acting like fools. I am really glad to find some characters that are young but not stupid.
No son tontos.
Disfruté Set porque siento que fue muy real. Entonces, ¿crees que es importante crear personajes en los cuales su juventud no sea sinónimo de malas decisiones?
Well, I think it's important to make sure that your characters are as real as possible. And, you know, teenagers are much smarter than a lot of adults give them credit for. And we wanted to make the characters smart and able to deal and figure out this very difficult situation in which they didn't have adults to help them. And so they had to rise to the occasion and really save themselves and each other.
Yeah.
Es importante que los personajes sean los más reales posibles. Los adolescentes son inteligentes y queríamos hacerlos así, inteligentes, y que ellos pudieran enfrentar situaciones solos, sin adultos, y poder salvarse de ellos mismos.
So, Neil, I have to say that I love your picture that is in your wall. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
it was actually, it's
yeah.
a woodcut that was made by a teacher's husband and presented to me. So it's made out of wood.
Oh, it's amazing. I really love it.
Thank you.
So, okay. So, do you think that it's important to create characters, yeah, as real as possible, but maybe with some, I don't know how to say, with some issues, with some bad things, but it doesn't have to be, I don't know, like, you know, the people usually thinks that, yeah, young people act like fools, but you you two made some characters with some things like to shotguns, and they know how to survive, and they know how to look for the things that they are really needing.
Es importante crear libros no solo con personajes que sean lo más reales posible, sino que también se puedan ver sus debilidades.
Well, I think that it's important when you figure out who your character is going to be, that you match them well. There are strengths and weaknesses that different people have. And so we had to figure out how these characters would fit together like a puzzle so that their group would have a dynamic that would help them and save them. You know, each character has flaws. Each character has things that aren't working for them, but they have things that are working for them. And then when they work together, they're able to overcome all of that.
Yeah,
Es importante cuando descubres quién va a ser tu personaje. Obviamente van a tener debilidades y fortalezas. Y lo importante es irlos encajando como un rompecabezas. Todos tienen debilidades, pero cuando trabajan en conjunto se pueden superar estos.
So, Jarrod and Neal, you can both answer the question, because I really want to know who chose the idea that the lack of water and, you know, these characters facing it.
Eric quiere saber quién fue el que eligió la idea de la falta de agua que tienen que enfrentar los personajes.
For us, really, it came together like so many of our ideas do. It'll come with multiple different elements that then, when combined, become a story that worked. I know originally I was exploring this concept of 3 days to animal, which pretty much means whenever any human loses any basic commodity like water, or they lose food or power, they can devolve into an animal. And what will you do at that point? And I think it was my dad's idea. If you want to continue, Dad.
Yeah, that we were talking about that. We were actually stuck in traffic talking about this situation, trying to figure out what story we wanted to write. And when Jarrod mentioned 3 days to animal, I started thinking about the water shortage in California and how we've had a drought for years. And so we posed the question, what if all the water just suddenly shut off? What would happen if you had 24 million people without access to fresh water? How long would it take until everything starts to fall apart?
Fue una idea juntos, como muchas de nuestras ideas, con algunos elementos que se fueron combinando para que juntos formaran una historia. Yo quería saber cómo sería que una persona se enfrente a estar sin agua y esas cosas, pero la idea fue especialmente de mi padre, Neal, quien se preguntó qué pasaría si millones de personas tuvieran que enfrentarse a esto, a la falta de agua, cómo reaccionarían ellos.
Yeah, and you know, the lack of water is some of the topics that are hard to touch, but I think that are really important to, I don't know, to everybody to talk about. Yeah, it's, yeah, maybe they are hard, but it's so necessary to talk about that.
La falta de agua es uno de los temas más difíciles de tratar. Puede ser difícil, pero es necesario de hacerlo.
We never take on easy subjects. We always want to address subjects that are difficult and try to address them in the best way possible, to pose as many questions as we can, and not necessarily give answers, because the questions that need to be asked don't have easy answers. And so we sort of try to pose questions and let people look at things from different perspectives and try to solve these problems for themselves.
Nunca nos enfrentamos a temas fáciles. Lo hacemos en la mayor cantidad de preguntas como podamos, que no tengan respuestas fáciles, y ver cómo las personas podrían ir solucionando estos problemas.
Yeah, and you know, some of the books for young readers are made with the topics of sexuality and love and who we are and things like that, I think that it's important to know that we can go far. I don't know, to talk more about important and worldwide problems. And I really love that of your books, that we can face death and we can face the search of power, and how important it is to, if you can change the world, that you have the responsibility to do it.
Algunos de los libros para adultos jóvenes hablan de sexualidad, cómo descubrirse y otros temas. ¿Cuán importante es hablar acerca de estos temas con los jóvenes lectores? ¿Por qué ir más allá del amor, la sexualidad y descubrir quiénes somos? Entonces me gustaría saber la opinión de ambos.
Por nosotros es muy importante escribir sobre temas que nos afecta a todos. For people in, everywhere deals with these problems. Teenagers deal with growing and coming of age, and they deal with learning about their sexuality. And we would like to show all of those very normal problems, but we want to show them through a much larger, fantastic situation that also makes a point. So rather than just exploring with a microscope on some of those smaller issues, we want to explore those issues, but what is it like when you're under a lot of pressure? What is it like when the world is changing around you? What is it like when there's no water?
En todos lados enfrentamos estos problemas de crecer y enfrentarse a estos problemas de sexualidad, pero nosotros queríamos hablar de estos temas, pero con una perspectiva más grande. Queríamos ir más allá de eso, cuando estamos bajo presión y es más difícil enfrentar estos problemas.
So in my personal experience, I want you to know that I read The Arc of a Scythe, the book 1, that is Scythe, 2 years ago, and I really loved it, and I was really shocked, and I really wanted everybody to know that I really loved that book, and I was telling everybody, just you have to read it. And then I read Dry, and it was amazing too. So I am really happy to be here with you talking about that, because I really want to know how important it is for you to be a writer, how important it is for you to show the people what are you thinking, what do you want to communicate for everybody.
En mi experiencia personal, leí la trilogía del Arco de la Guadaña hace 2 años y la amé, y quedé en shock. Quería que todos la leyeran. Después leí Set y estoy feliz de estar aquí con ustedes y poder hablar. Quisiera saber qué tan importante es ser escritores y que las personas puedan conocer estas cosas.
Well, I think being a writer, writing isn't something that you just do, it's who you are. It's everything about you is part of being a writer. I couldn't imagine doing anything else, with my life. And I think it is a gift to be able to share, your thoughts with the world this way. Most of my thoughts are questions, are issues that I want to put out there, are not even suggestions for solutions, but ways of approaching the things that we all face, whether we're teenagers or whether we're adults. I mean, I love it when adults will read the book, not even realizing it was a young adult book, because I think that the questions and the topics that we address are things that appeal to everybody, that everybody has to think about, those universal ideas. And knowing that you've written something that is universal like that everybody can relate to, makes it all worth it.
Escribir es quien soy. Todo de ti es ser escritor. No puedo imaginar haciendo otra cosa con mi vida. Es un regalo poder compartir tus pensamientos con el mundo, buscar soluciones a problemas que todos enfrentamos, no solo adolescentes, sino también a los adultos. Las preguntas y los temas que tratamos son temas que les interesan a todos, y todos deberían hacerse estos planteamientos, cuestionarse estas preguntas.
So I really want to know your opinion, Neal, because I'm always listening and hearing people say that the Arc of a Scythe trilogy is a dystopia, and I think that is more an utopia. What do you think about?
Quiero saber, Neil, tu opinión, porque siempre estoy escuchando que la trilogía del Arco de la Guadaña es una distopía, pero yo pienso más que es una utopía.
The Ark of a Scythe trilogy is the kind of, I wouldn't call it utopia because it's obviously not the perfect world, but I wanted it to be the opposite of dystopia in the sense that it wasn't about what happens when the world goes wrong. It's about the consequences of the world going right. Because even when we get everything that we want from, a world without war, a world without racism, a world without disease, when we get all that, there will be consequences to having all these things that we want. I wanted to explore what those consequences might be and how we as a society would deal with that.
La trilogía del Arco de la Guadaña no la llamaría una utopía porque no es un mundo perfecto, pero creo que es lo opuesto a una distopía. ¿Qué pasaría cuando el mundo va mal? Un mundo sin enfermedades, racismo, habrá consecuencias. Hay que como que todos tenemos estas preguntas.
Yeah, so we can maybe call it a dysutopia, something like that. And I am really, I don't know, I really like how you can touch the topic that even when we have a perfect system, when we have something really great in our world, then human nature can damage it, can broke everything. I really like that.
Yeah, I mean,
aun cuando tenemos un sistema perfecto en el mundo, luego la naturaleza humana viene y la puede dañar.
Yeah, ultimately, we are left with our own human nature. And even when we reach a place where we have achieved all that we want to achieve, there's always going to be those who are going to try to tear it down. And so that is a problem. In the story, there's the Thunderhead, which is this artificial intelligence that is perfect and can't make a mistake, but yet it has no control over life and death because it felt that that has to be left in human hands. And so that's where the problems come from. It doesn't come from the artificial intelligence. It comes from what us dealing with life and death ourselves, still trying to grapple with that.
Todo lo que queremos alcanzar, habrá quienes intenten tirarlo o destrozarlo. El Nimbo, por ejemplo, que es una inteligencia artificial, puede parecer perfecto, pero en realidad no puede controlar la vida y la muerte. Entonces, ahí tenemos el problema. ¿Qué pasaría con eso?
So yeah, I really love the Thunderhead. I think that everybody loves the Thunderhead. It's the favorite character of the trilogy, I think, for everybody.
It's my favorite character too.
Yeah, we really love it. It's just everything that is right in the world. It's like we want to hug him and just say, it's okay, you are doing it right. Don't worry.
Ok, están diciendo Erika que Nimbo es su personaje favorito y Neil está de acuerdo con ella que también es su personaje favorito.
So
the Thunderhead was interesting to write from the point of view of the Thunderhead, this being that was in control of just about everything, but yet didn't understand its place in the universe and wanted to understand its own sense of meaning, its own sense of purpose. And it loves humanity, but doesn't know how to save humanity from itself.
El Nimbo fue interesante de escribir, estar en control de todo, intentar entender su propósito. Él ama la humanidad.
So, Jarrod, have you, I suppose that you have read your father's books, I think?
Yes.
Yeah. So, which is your favorite character of the Ark of Scythe trilogy?
Jarrod, supongo que has leído los libros de tu padre, entonces quisiera saber cuál es tu personaje favorito de los libros.
En Scythe, me gusta más el personaje de Rowan.
I love Rowan. It's my crush.
Because I connected with that character. I really did. And I connected with that struggle that he was going through. I thought that I really enjoyed Rowan, but I mean, it's hard because there's so many characters to enjoy. I like Faraday as well.
Entonces, Jarrod, el que más le gustó de Ciega fue Rowan porque se logró conectar con él y también le gustó Faraday.
Yeah, I really love Rowan because it's a character that it shows how even when the things go wrong, you may choose keep doing things right, you know, maybe change your world and change the things that you know that are going wrong. And I really love it because it's, I don't know, it's a great character for me. I am really in love.
Entonces amé Rowan porque es un personaje que muestra cuando las cosas van mal, puedes hacerlas mejor, cambiar el mundo.
So Neal, I want to
Yes.
know which is your favorite character of the trilogy, that the Ark of Asai trilogy?
Oh, well, my favorite character, my favorite non-human character is the Thunderhead. The
Yeah,
Thunderhead is the most
yeah, okay.
fun character to write through the second and third book. But in terms of the human characters, I would say that my favorite characters would be Faraday and Scythe Curie, but also Grayson, character of Grayson.
Grayson is
because
amazing.
his evolution from being, this character who is not involved with the Scythedom and has really no power at all, to ultimately being the single most powerful human being on the face of the earth, was a really fascinating journey to follow him.
Yeah, I really enjoy how he is always acting like a boss, even when he's, I don't know, tired and just he just wants to die and just keep, I don't know. He is always, then he goes out and is, okay, I am everything that you wanted, always that you been waiting for, and I am here for you, for everybody. Just enjoy me.
Ok, entonces el personaje no humano favorito de Neal es el Nimbo. Para él fue el más divertido de escribir, sobre todo en el segundo y en el tercer libro. Pero si hablamos de personajes no humanos, ese sería Faraday y la segadora Curie, aunque también Grayson, ya que su evolución de no estar envuelto con la guadaña a pasar al ser el más poderoso, tuvo una asombrosa transformación. Entonces, Eri también está de acuerdo con eso, ama a Grayson y ama que actúe como un jefe.
Y también hay un personaje que me gusta mucho en Scythe. Escribo con mi mujer ahora también, y mi mujer y yo y mi padre estamos escribiendo una historia de Scythe de solo 30, 40 páginas sobre Scythe Gaudí, o Scythe que está en Barcelona, España, con Scythe Gaudí y también con Scythe Dalí. Y cómo están these different sites. So es muy divertido escribir con mi padre y también con mi mujer esta cosa. So, tengo nuevos personajes que me encantan.
Tengo que decir que tu español es muy bueno.
Oh, muchas gracias. Muchas gracias. Tengo la profesora mejor en el mundo mismo.
Yeah. She's from Spain, right?
Sí, es de España. Sí.
Okay. So for you, Jarrod, some weeks before, I watched on the Neal's Instagram that he posted the book trailer of the Skin Jacket trilogy. So
yes.
Did you work on that, right?
Yes. So I worked on that. So it was me and Sophie, my wife, we worked together on that, and it was really fun to create that trailer. We did it pretty fast, and it was something that was done during this pandemic. So it was hard, but it was really great to work on it. And then my dad gave us lots of notes as well, and we talked about how we were going to, put something together that fit kind of his vision and his world, and how would we show that and make it feel like a movie. So it was really fun to do, and it was really fun to kind of invent and be the directors of a movie that doesn't exist yet.
But maybe soon it could
Hopefully,
be possible.
one day. Dry also.
Ojalá.
Yeah.
Ok, entonces hace unas semanas vio que en el Instagram de Neal se publicó un book trailer de la trilogía Skin Jacket. So, la respuesta de Jarrod fue que trabajó en el tráiler junto con su esposa y fue muy divertido realizarlo. Fue muy rápido de hacer y fue hecho durante la pandemia. Entonces hablamos de cómo trabajar en algo juntos que pudieran mostrar la visión de Neal al mundo. Y fue muy divertido tratar de ser directores, aunque sea para un tráiler de una película que todavía no está en planes.
So I want to know your opinion about the book trailers. I think that are really important, and in the last years we have seen it a lot of book trailers, and I think that is a good way to make people get interested in the books. What do you think? I want to know you both, or the opinions of both.
Entonces,
I agree with you. I think we both agree that trailers are very important. It's hard to get the publishers to do trailers these days because they like to see exactly how everything that they do reflects in book sales, and it's all about that. And so it's very difficult to track how a trailer is creating further book sales. And so we tend to now, when we do trailers, we do it and then give it to the publisher rather than having them be the ones who make it.
Entonces, queremos saber la opinión de Neal acerca de los book trailers, si es una forma de que las personas se interesen en los libros. Y Neal está de acuerdo con Eric de que es difícil primero de que se hagan estos trailers hoy en día, porque desean saber exactamente cómo son los libros. Entonces, por eso es difícil. Entonces, cuando tendemos primero a hacer primero los book trailers y luego se los dan a las editoriales.
And Jarrod?
Yes, and I think with the trailers are really fun to make, and they're really great. And it's hard to be able to make something for a low cost that everyone can enjoy. So it's tricky. And these days it's harder because a lot of people want to use Instagrammers or social media, and they don't necessarily want to use a commercial. So the trick is what my dad said is creating something kind of on our own and doing it in a cheap way, but using as much ingenuity, using as much cerebro as possible, and, you know, sacar la meta adelante and create something really fun and great that represents what we're doing. So it's a fun process.
Entonces, con los book trailers, esos son divertidos, aunque difíciles de hacer, ya que el bajo costo con los que se cuenta, todos quieren, por ejemplo, hoy en día hacer bookstagrammer. Entonces, el punto está en crear algo propio, pero que sea económico.
I wanted to tell you that when I first read Dry, I was thinking, okay, Neal Shusterman and Jarrod Shusterman, maybe they are brothers, maybe they are family, or just it's a coincidence. And then, then when I was reading the Toll, I find in the greetings that you said thanks to my son Jarrod, and I was okay. I was in a really big mistake all this time. And I didn't know that you were father and brother, but then when I was searching and when I was investigating, I found that, and I was, well, okay, I was broken the family Shusterman.
Entonces,
Well,
Eric quería saber si eran familiares, porque ella no sabía si eran padre e hijo, hermanos, o si era una simple coincidencia de que los dos tuvieran el apellido Shusterman. Pero en Trueno logró descubrir que en los agradecimientos mencionaba a su hijo Jarrod, entonces ahí descubrió que eran padre e hijo.
Getting the chance to write with my son was a real bonding experience, and to see how easy it was, because he's such a good writer, he's so talented, that we wrote Dry in a record time. Usually all of my books are late. It's hard, you know, the publisher's always waiting months and months. We actually finished this book early and got it into them, and they didn't know what to do.
And everybody was telling, please, Jarrod, tell him just to write more with you, just to be early books.
Entonces, tener la oportunidad de escribir junto con su hijo fue un gran momento de unión y descubrió que fue muy fácil hacerlo, ya que ambos escribieron en un tiempo récord. Por lo general, cuando él escribe sus propios libros, siempre los termina un poco tarde, pero con él lo entregaron incluso mucho antes de la fecha estimada.
Jarrod, did you say something?
Yes, I was going to say, it's interesting being the son and writing with your dad, because he's really great. And writing together is really interesting as a father and son, because you have to ask questions, or you have to talk about things that maybe you wouldn't talk about with your father. You have to talk about things. You talk about things like sex. You talk about things like, how would you kill somebody with a gun if you had to for water in this scenario? Things that maybe your father shouldn't know about you. So, soy un buen chico. So for that, you know, it's very interesting and very different, and something that you learn a lot about each other.
Verás, entonces es interesante ser el hijo y poder escribir con tu papá. Él es muy bueno, pero tienes que hacerte preguntas que normalmente no le harías a tu padre. Por ejemplo, que te pregunten si matarías a alguien con un arma por agua. Entonces son preguntas que normalmente no te las haría tu papá.
And now you know each other better.
Necesitaba mostrar un lado de of myself que no lo sabía existía antes.
Now Neal see you with different eyes.
Yes.
Sí, por lo malo y por lo bueno.
Yeah, and I want to know something, Neal, which is your favorite book that you have written?
You know, it's very hard to pick a favorite book.
Like
I
a
can
son.
tell you which was the most fun to write, which was the one that I felt had the biggest impact. They're all favorites for different ways. Dry was the most fun to write because I was writing with Jarrod. The one that I feel has the one that I felt is the most creative, where I did the most, where I created the most complete world, was the Arc of a Scythe trilogy, and I'm very proud of it for that reason. And then there's Challenger Deep, which was I think the most personal book that I've written, and the one that I feel has had the biggest impact. And so those would be the ones that I would mention for different reasons.
Entonces Eric quiere saber cuál era el libro favorito de Neal. Y Neal dice que es difícil elegir uno. Él puede decir cuál es el más divertido o tal vez el que tuvo más impacto. Por ejemplo, para él fue Set el más divertido, y en cambio el más creativo o completo de escribir, del cual se siente muy orgulloso, fue El Arco de la Guadaña, la trilogía.
Yeah, we are talking about Challenger Deep, and I finished that book just like 2 days ago, and I was really thinking that it has to be hard for you to talk about, you know, mental issues and things like that, because I was reading that your family has to deal with some that kind of problems.
I was just waiting for the translation. It's okay.
Sorry. Entonces, quiere saber si tuvo que ser difícil para él escribir problemas, por ejemplo, problemas mentales, o si su familia tiene que enfrentar alguno de esos problemas de los que escribe.
Well, Challenger Deep was inspired by what Jarrod's brother had gone through when he was facing mental illness. So it is a very personal story, and it's a success story. It's a story that has a happy ending, because through all the difficult times that he went through, he has done remarkably well. And now he's actually living in Thailand, teaching English, and thriving. And when I chose to write the book, I took artwork that he had done when he was in a bad mental place and used it to help direct the story. And it became a sort of taking a dark situation and turning it around so that it can shine a light out there on mental illness for other people.
Entonces, El Abismo, el libro fue una historia muy personal que tuvo que escribir. Lo importante de este es que tuvo un final feliz por todas las cosas difíciles por las que se tuvo que enfrentar. Y en quien se inspiró la historia ahora se encuentra viviendo muy feliz. Se convirtió una situación tal vez un poco negra o fea para que ésta pudiera salir y ver la luz.
So, can you tell us if you're working on something new right now?
Sí.
Entonces,
Yes,
está
Jarrod,
trabajando
do you want to take that?
Yes. Sí, ahora estamos trabajando en un novel juntos, algo nuevo. It's called Roxy, and we're writing it together. And it tackles the theme, the very difficult theme of drug addiction, and what drugs can do, what negative things that they do, and how they affect the people around us in our world. But we do it in a unique and different way that's not very conventional.
We realize that this is a topic that has been addressed in different ways. So if we were going to tell it, we had to find a way of telling this story in a way that we've never seen before. So we thought, well, back in the old in mythology, the Greek gods would come down and wreak havoc in humans' lives. What if we told a story where the drugs were like the Greek gods, where OxyContin was Roxy, was this seductress, this beautiful goddess-like creature that came down to addict people and wreak havoc in their lives. And then we created this hierarchy of all of these different drugs as people and how they affect the world.
Entonces, ahorita están escribiendo una novela que se centra en la adicción de drogas y cómo estas pueden afectar a las personas o a las personas que se encuentran alrededor de ellas. Es un tema que se ha tratado ya de diferentes maneras, pero ellos desean escribirla de una forma en la que no se haya visto nunca antes. Entonces, ¿qué pasaría, por ejemplo, si las drogas fueran como los dioses griegos? Ellos hacen esas preguntas.
I am really, really interested in that book. I hope we can read it soon because it sounds amazing. So if you want, we can pass to the questions of the public just to be okay with the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, it's okay.
Yes.
Before we continue with the questions, the members of the site club prepare a surprise for you. So you give me a second. ¿Pueden ver?
Sí.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Saitani, the organizer of the Site Club. In order to show you how much we love your books, the members and I prepared this video. Enjoy!
Yo soy Molly, la segadora Molly. Les mando saludos muy muy grandes desde aquí de México. Amo muchísimo a Faraday, es mi segador favorito y ha sido uno de los mejores personajes que he leído.
Mi nombre es Yomi, soy de Ecuador y quería agradecerles por crear una trilogía tan perfecta como lo es El Arco de la Guadaña. A mí no hay mejor antagonista que Godard, pero muchísimo que sigan creando mundos así de impresionantes y perfectos.
My name is Kev, and I would like to thank Neal for creating such an incredible trilogy such as Arc of the Side. This trilogy is definitely one of the best I have ever read, and I have a lot of respect for it because it has given me back my love for reading, because it is really amazing what it has cast in me as a reader.
I am from Maracaibo, Venezuela. Dry is my first book in the club and I loved it. I also hope to read more of your books. Bye.
Neal, eres uno de mis escritores favoritos. El Arco de la Guadaña es una trilogía que me encantó, especialmente Nimbo. Jarrod, hace poco leí Set y es una historia increíble. Espero seguir leyendo más de ti.
Hi, I am Cypher, and I'm very thankful for your attendance to my Galenium. What are your last wishes?
I'm the cyclist, but everybody calls me Nena. I really admire your work. I think writing is one of the most amazing superpowers on earth.
Agradecerle un montón a Neal por escribir tan buenos libros. Se ha convertido en uno de mis autores favoritos en tan poco tiempo. A Jarrod, espero que siga escribiendo porque Seth me encantó.
Hey Jarrod and Neal, greetings from Ecuador. I just want to say I'm so thankful for your amazing books that gave me a real exciting experience and made my reading year a blast. So thank you so much. This was Said Jasmine in the colors of Said Constantine.
Okay, that's it.
Amazing.
Me
That was
encanta.
fantastic. Wonderful. Thank you.
Es fantástico.
Yeah, so I think that the book club has some questions, right, Annie?
Yeah, entonces para iniciar con las preguntas, los miembros del Club de la Guadaña prepararon algunas para ellos que me gustaría realizarles. So the members of the Sci Club have prepared some questions for both of you that I would like to ask. The first question is for Neal. Which of your books was the hardest book to write and why?
The hardest books to write, especially when it's a series, the hardest book to write is the last one. So if you ask me the 3 hardest books, Undivided, which was the last of the Scythe series, Ever Found, which is the last of the Ever Lost series, and The Toll, last of the Arc of a Scythe series, because there's so many characters and so much story and so many things that all need to come together and work and wrap up, that it's there's a lot of juggling and a lot of, that's why the last book of a series is always the longest, because there's so many things that have to happen in it.
Entonces el libro más difícil de escribir son especialmente los últimos de las series de los libros. Por ejemplo, esto es porque hay muchos personajes, mucha historia detrás que se tiene que resumir en un solo libro. The second question is for Jarrod. Are you writing other books? Oh, well, we know that you are writing now.
Tengo otro libro. Sí. Ahora estoy escribiendo con mi mujer, Sophie, un libro que se llama Retro. And it's about what would happen if there was a challenge to take away your phones, take away electronics. If you could go back in time and be retro. And if you win this, you get to go to scholarship for free. So it goes into what happens when people go retro for 2 months, 2 years, however long, to discover what life is like, but totally like the way it was in the past.
Ok, entonces ahorita está escribiendo un libro junto con Sophie, su esposa, de qué pasaría, o sea, un desafío, como que qué pasaría si se quitaran los celulares, pudieran como viajar al pasado, un estilo medio retro, y empezar a hacer este desafío. ¿Cuánto duraría? ¿Cuánto durarían las personas en este evento? Well, so the next question is, how did the idea of Writing Together come about? And what was the biggest challenge of Writing Together?
Oh, Writing Together, actually, it started when I asked if Jarrod would write a short story for the Unbound short story collection, which is in the world of Unwind. And the story that he wrote was so good, the publishers loved it, and we thought, hey, let's see if we can write a book together. And then we had to come up with the idea.
Yeah.
So we spent some time coming up with different ideas, and the one that just really jumped out at us, the one that we were both most excited about, was Dry.
And the first ideas too weren't great. You know, you come up with a lot of bad ideas, and then you finally settle on the good one. So
I don't even remember the bad ones.
Yeah, we don't. So it doesn't come out of thin air. You know, you have to work hard, and even as a writer, there's still a lot of bad ideas you have to say no to. But the trick is being able to say no to the bad ones.
And then you block those bad ideas out and you don't remember them.
Sí. And you burn them con fuego. Y ya está.
They didn't exist.
No.
Ok, entonces la idea de escribir juntos empezó cuando le preguntó a Jarrod si podía escribir una historia para Unbound. Y la historia resultó que fue muy buena, entonces de ahí nació la idea de escribir juntos. Las primeras ideas, de hecho, salieron muy geniales. No tuvieron desafíos al escribir juntos, solo tener que trabajar duro, y el truco era saber decir que no. Okay, the next question is for Neal. Have you ever been worried about the censorship of your works because of the topics you talk about in them?
Cuidado.
You know, there's when sometimes I think, oh, this book is going to be there's going to be all this outrage about the book, but there very rarely is, and I think it's because the books speak for themselves. And anytime there have been challenges to the books, it's usually because people didn't read it. And then after they read it, they sort of back off from that position. I think because the books are told in a very responsible way. they don't, I mean, they look at the issues in a responsible way that, that people can understand, and understand why I wrote the story, why we're talking about these topics. There is a new book that it's going to be coming out in February, and I have the same worry. I'm concerned that because it hits a lot of very sensitive issues, I mean, racism, sexism, homophobia, all of these issues are addressed in this book that's coming out called Game Changer. And that's coming out in February. And, I worry that it's not so much that it's going to offend people, but it's going to make people uncomfortable because I'm dealing with sensitive issues.
Entonces, sí, es muy difícil a veces tener que estar preocupado por estos temas, pero los libros hablan por sí mismos. Y si es que ocurre esto es porque las personas realmente tal vez no los leen, porque ya cuando los leen de una forma responsable, entonces ya pueden entender por qué escribo estas historias. De hecho, hay un nuevo libro que se va a publicar en febrero, que es Game Changer, del que también está preocupado por los temas sensibles de los que trata, ya que trata de racismo. Entonces, este nuevo libro sí le preocupa de que las personas tal vez se puedan no sentir, tal vez sentirse un poco ofendidas por los temas que trata.
Para nosotros, si no corre el riesgo, no merece la pena de escribir.
Yeah.
What he said.
No, sorry. I said if it doesn't run that risk and you're not pushing those boundaries, it's not worth it to write.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A very good point.
Okay.
Perdona,
the last question is, how long did it take to write?
It depends on whether you're talking about length of time from beginning to end, or how long it took if you put all the time together. From beginning to end, we worked on it for over 2 years. But also, we worked on it a bit, and then I had to stop because I had to finish Thunderhead, and then we worked on it some more, and then I had to stop because I had to finish, another book, and so we kept coming back to it. But Jarrod, how long would you say the amount of time was when we put it all together?
I mean, yeah, when it was apart, it was maybe 2.5 to 3 years. But when we put it together, it wasn't very long. I mean, I think if we sat together and just wrote, 5 days a week, we could have had it done in 5 months, 4 months.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We wrote very fast, so fast they had to change the publication date and make the publication date a year before because we wrote it so fast.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds so easy as you say it. It's just, we wrote a book and in 4 months we have the new one, and it was so easy.
No es fácil. That during those 4 months, I was like this. Porque es trabajo, es difícil, but it's really fun to do together.
Ok, entonces si hablamos de principio a fin, se tardó aproximadamente unos 2 años, pero eso es porque Neal tuvo que terminar de escribir otros libros de por medio. Pero si se considera escribir juntos, y Jarrod dice exactamente de que de principio a fin tal vez fueron unos 2 o 3 años, pero si se hubiesen sentado a escribir juntos los 5 días a la semana, pudieron haberlo tenido en 5 meses. Y de hecho hicieron la publicación del libro 1 año antes de lo previsto.
So we have some questions from the viewers of this talk, and we're going to look for an interesting one. Jodas wants to know if you're planning to make a movie maybe of Dry. If you have plans, maybe somebody has told you that maybe it's possible to do a movie, an adaptation.
Entonces el público quiere saber si es posible una adaptación.
It's Paramount Studios has picked it up to do as a movie, and it's getting closer and closer to happening, and we're very excited.
We're getting close.
Entonces sí, están muy cerca. Entonces sí, están muy cerca de tener una película de sus libros con estudios Paramount.
Y hemos escrito el guión juntas también. We wrote the script
That's
together.
amazing.
Yeah.
And Scythe also. Scythe is also in development as a movie.
Yeah, we're waiting
Universal
here.
Studios.
Yeah, we wanted
We
to
would
see
love
it.
to see it.
Escribir Scythe.
Yeah, and they want to know if how hard was for you, Neal, to be published the first time.
¿Qué tan difícil fue ser publicado?
Well, my first book was never published. I couldn't sell it to anybody. And then
Can
the
I
second
buy it?
book, same thing. The third one was the one that got published. So I had to write 3 until I was a good enough writer to be published.
Entonces, respondiendo a la última pregunta, su primer libro no fue publicado. De hecho, ni siquiera lo pudo vender. So, una vez, thank you, Neal and Jarrod, for sharing your time with us. It was an incredible experience to be able to talk with you, and we hope to see both of you soon.
Por supuesto. Muchas gracias a todos.
Muchas gracias.
Por estar nosotros aquí.
It was wonderful. We had a good time. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
thank you
thank
for your time.
all our fans out there.
Una vez más, gracias a Neal y a Jarrod por haber compartido su tiempo con nosotros. Muchas gracias a todas las personas que participaron en este evento. Esperamos que los hayan disfrutado igual que nosotros. Y gracias a Livraria y Editorial Nocturna por hacer esto posible.